You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got these massive souls.
We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.
Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast. A little bit of squad rotation again for this week. I'm Kev, your host as always, and I'm joined by the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe and Town fan Dan Barrett Davis is back with us. Dan, welcome along again, mate.
Thank you. Hello.
We will review the 2-2 draw that Luton picked up on Saturday afternoon against Notts Forest. We'll go through the game, the best bits, the not so good bits, the fun bits, and we'll pick out one or two individuals that, well, definitely need to be spoken about on what was a really, really, really good away day. So before we start, as always, we are at the Hightown Club recording this. There is entertainment going downstairs, so if there is a little bit of background noise, we do apologise. But we've done everything that we can do to get that out of the system, as you might just have heard. But yeah, 2-2 against Notts Forest on Saturday. Dan, I'll come to you first. You were there. Mm-hmm. Cracking away day yet again. And, well, it didn't look like being it, to be fair, for 70-odd minutes or so. But come the end of it, I mean, it's just one of those away days that at the end of the season we'll just think back on just because of the scenes at the end, really.
Yeah, and when you look at the last 10 minutes, it's sort of what makes you realise what football's all about. You go through games where you're losing 1-0 and, you know, there's no hope, or 2-0, 3-0, whatever. But to come back from 2-0 down away from home in the last 10 minutes, and partly down to Forest shutting up shop, really, but also partly to us not giving up. You know, this team just doesn't give up. And they showed it yesterday. I mean, Ogbene got us off to a flyer, really, out of a free kick that really should have been cleared. Aurier decided to fall over front of it first, and that helped us on. And then just Adebayo not giving up and shutting a few people up, and rightly so. And that just, you know, my head hit the roof.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the first half was pretty. They probably edged it, I'd say. I think we were lucky to go in 0-0 at half time. And very annoyingly, they scored early on in the second half. And the longer it went on, they scored another. I thought, you know, we all thought, this is dead. This is a dead rubber. Go on to the next one. But the substitutions, well, Edwards absolutely spot on, crying out for it, and it worked. It was brilliant. The last 10 minutes were brilliant. Let's forget about the rest of it.
Yeah, I certainly echo much of that. James, you weren't there, but in terms of everything about coming back from 2-0 down against a team that we said in the preview podcast that's been obliterated on YouTube, but of precious home fans who were clearly got it all wrong once again. But we said that they're one of the sides that's going to be in this mini league. Where it is in that mini league they're going to be, who knows? But so coming back and keeping them in check was one thing, but it's going to mean so much, the belief that last 10, 15 minutes gives us. We know this team never gives up, right? It's the DNA of this club. It never gives in. It's not going to give in. If we're going to lose games, we're going to lose games because the opposition are better than us, not because they want it more or they outfight us. So we knew they'd keep on going, but to actually turn that round, long term, that's going to do wonders than just a solitary point, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Results like that and the way it came about are, and we've seen it in previous seasons, last season for instance, they're transformative for seasons. They can kickstart them or they can turn things around in the same way that Cauley Woodrow's goal against Norwich in Rob Edwards' first home game last season was a catalyst for everything that happened. Now that was obviously to go and get promotion. No, we're talking about transformative in terms of knowing that they can go away to away grounds and be 2-0 down with 15 minutes to go, 25 minutes to go, sorry, and still come back. It's going to be so important for belief, which I don't think was lacking anyway. I'm not saying that at all, but I think it gives something to Luton to go forward with. And I do believe that Nottingham Forest are in a little league with Luton. I did say that they'd probably be towards the top, but that brings them back into it. I mean, the Nottingham Forest fans didn't like that at all, but whatever.
They don't like anything.
They
So
don't
it's
like
fine.
anything. But
They like a Christmas song. Sung it twice.
But yeah, it's one of those results. I think that you can probably look back in the fullness of time. You know, it can go another way, obviously, but we've seen it so many times where these sorts of things, it felt like a win, and certainly at 76 minutes when I was watching the game, and Chris Wood scored 2, and I'm like, oh my God, this is not going to end well. But you know, the way they come back, it's going to be so important, I think.
Yeah, it wasn't going to end well, was it? But then the Championship Manager of the Year for he wasn't Championship Manager of the Year 2 seasons ago, was he? Showed exactly why he wasn't Championship Manager of the Year 2 seasons ago, and made a raft of really baffling substitutions, which we're all glad that he did. And the game kind of completely transformed from then. But I mean, I was a little bit surprised really with all the reaction to the preview podcast, because you'd have thought we were playing the European Cup version of Nottingham Forest, judging by some of the comments.
Well, we're not.
But no, we weren't, funnily enough. We were playing a team that were exactly the same as us the season before, won the Championship playoffs, struggling like mad to stay in the Premier League and fighting their asses off to do so. All of a sudden, you thought we were playing Billy Big Bollocks in the European Cup final. It was crazy. And maybe that's what kind of filtered in with, these Cooper substitutions, because every single one he made, and he made 5 of them, each one of them made their team worse. And each one of the 5 that we made, or certainly 4 of the 5 we made our team better. So if you're looking at the battle off the pitch as much as the battle on it, I mean, Edwards has outshone Cooper by a million miles in terms of the substitutions.
Yeah, yes, and it was interesting to see, to read beforehand that he'd leaned on Cooper quite heavily for the playoffs, during the playoffs run. And rightly so, because obviously Cooper's been there and done it. And you look at his record at Forest, and he's done really well. He's got a very good record there. I was overhearing a few Forest fans talking on the way home when I eventually got home, and a lot of them were saying, "Well, Cooper doesn't often get it wrong," and he doesn't. He's a very, very good manager, and he deserves to be in the Premier League because he is very, very good. But he cocked it up yesterday. He got it wrong. And Edwards certainly did win the battle, because we had, I think when you look at, we've got 2 former England internationals to bring in. Adebayo certainly feels like he's got a point to prove, and many fans would argue he has. And I think they all have, really, to a point, haven't they? But our subs were hungry, and they wanted it. And I think from their point of view, you're 2-0 up, 15 to go. You sort of think, well, we could probably afford to take the foot off the gas a little bit. Luton haven't looked too threatening, and we hadn't really, to a point. I think we'd had a couple of half chances, but we weren't really in the game in terms of chances created and putting them away. But I think that only just gave us more hunger once they decided, well, we'll shut up shop, come at us. We're like, all right, this is what we've got.
Yeah,
and if it goes on another 5 minutes, I think we win the game.
Yeah.
Good shout.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I wouldn't say like my belief was waning, but it was certainly looking more and more and more like it wasn't going to be our day. And then, in particular, he brought Joe Worrell on, didn't he? And you're like, because we've just brought Elijah Adebayo on.
Yeah,
and you pinpointed him in the preview as well as being.
But I didn't do no
journeyman.
research for that preview, so I couldn't have.
Only according to the Forest fans, yeah.
But and it was Worrell who, I mean, he swatted him off like a fly for the second goal, didn't he? He was like, "Get away from me! I don't want you near me." Yeah. And I mean, we'll come on to the actual goals in a minute, because I just want to touch on the first half actually, where it was very much like Tottenham. 20 minutes, it was like, give us a ball, please. Stop shooting at our goal, for Christ's sake.
Leave us alone.
Exactly that. It was like, and this time they didn't have a Son Heung-min or Richarlison or James Maddison. I mean, Morgan Gibbs-White is a proper player. He is a proper player. And to be fair to Alfie Doughty, I reckon there ain't going to be many left backs that keep him as quiet as that this season. I know he was involved in the first goal, but his impact is usually a lot more than what he had there. But much like the Tottenham game, Dan, the longer that first half went on, you kind of thought, well, we've weathered the storm here. We were getting Ogbene in the game, which again, for the first 20 minutes, we couldn't do, much like the Tottenham game.
Yeah.
But when we did, he had Toffolo. I mean, obviously Toffolo was thinking about his next bet or two, but he was like, he had him he had him on toast down that side. He picked a beautiful ball over that Morris and Brown just missed, but I've seen it since, and actually I think it's Murillo gets a touch on it just to take it away from Brown. And then of course we had the Chong volley, which either side of the goalkeeper, and that's in the back of the net as well.
Yeah.
And you just thought it's coming, and then the last 5 minutes of the half, I mean, they came on strong again, didn't they? Missed two absolute sitters. Match of the day done Sangare, a right touch there, not showing that, because that was the sitter of all sitters that he missed. Forget about Elijah and Richarlison against Tottenham. That was harder to miss than it was to score, and fair play to the boy, he managed it perfectly. But overall in that first half, yet again for the second game in a row, we've weathered a real storm and gone in 0-0, and that's, again, if you're looking at positives and steps forward, that's one.
I think so, and you know, we've all known that every game is going to be tough. You know, let's still not pretend that, you know, we're established Premier League side, because we're not yet. I use the word yet. But you know, it's all about, we knew against Tottenham they were going to come at us. We sort of, when you're away from home, you sort of know the home team's going to come at you. I still remember Everton, they could have had 150 shots that day, they still wouldn't have scored, because they just couldn't shoot. But it is about containing that pressure and then going in at half time and go, right, here's what we do for 20 minutes, we'll hold it for a bit, and then we'll start being a bit more positive and direct. And that was I presume that was the plan yesterday. Looking back on it, I'd say it was. And it pulled off. We got a point out of it. We didn't against Spurs, and many would argue we perhaps should have done. At least got a point in that one. And like I said earlier, you know, if we get another 5 minutes yesterday, we won the game. Apart from their offside goal, we didn't really see anything really out of them the last sort of 20 minutes. After they scored the second one, I saw nothing out of them. No,
once Cooper got involved with his substitutions, they went out like a light.
Yeah,
really, didn't they?
He kind of broke it when it didn't need fixing, sort of thing. I mean, I get why managers do it, and Nathan was guilty of that a lot, getting a lead and then trying to hold on to it. And I've never really liked that approach. And Southgate does it a lot in tournaments as well, which we're not going to go into. But which is why Edwards is a little bit different. Like, he sort of knows that we've got to contain first a lot of pressure, because you've got these multi-million-pound players coming at you. You've got to be smart. You've got to get it right at the back. And I think I always say that the basis of a good football team is getting your back line sorted and having a good goalkeeper in there, which we have got. A good back line, good solid back line, very, very good goalkeeper. And you build from the back, and then let the rest sort itself out. And the substitutions were done at the right time, and that's what made the difference yesterday. If we could have just, I mean, if you're being really nitpicky, you could say, well, if we cut out the mistakes that led to their goals, they don't score. But then they had enough chances to finish that they should have finished anyway. So that doesn't really come into it as such, because at the end of the day, we got a point, and a very valuable one away from home. So,
yeah, absolutely. Just a shout out to Thomas Kaminsky, actually, because that was a pretty nasty situation that he was involved in on Monday with the Belgium-Sweden terrorist incident in Brussels. To have to go through that and then put yourself forward to come and play football 5 days later, I mean, let's be fair, football means absolutely nothing after something like that. So kudos to him for fronting up and having a really good game there, because, I mean, I'm sure, you know, mentally he might have been in a difficult spot. So fair play to Kaminsky for that. So, James, we've got the first half sorted. You know, we can weather these storms. We can hold these teams to 0-0. But these first 10 minutes in the second half are becoming a pain in the arse now. Switched off against Tottenham. They scored, 3 or 4 minutes after the restart, and Forest have got themselves I think Rob called it tame goal, didn't he? And it was, you know, straight through the middle again, much like the Burnley one. Okay, it was from our free kick, so we weren't necessarily in the shape that we would normally have been. But that sort of 45 to 55 minute period is becoming a bit of you know, the Neto goal against Wolves was in that time frame as well, wasn't it? It's that bit that's catching us out now.
Well, it starts both halves as well, if you want to put it that way, really. I mean, they've not been punished, you know, for Tottenham, Everton and now Forest, but yeah, it's the start there is not what you wanted. But at the same time, Edwards acknowledged that you're going to have to get a bit lucky there or weather some stuff, because that's going to happen. So that's good. But yeah, the second half does seem like a bit of a crutch that they've got to get over, and particularly the first goal was just so soft. They had the numbers as well, and we've praised them for being a bit getting savvier. There's somebody got to take a yellow card there in the build-up, maybe. I mean, you don't like to say it, obviously, but that's sort of levels you're at. But
I mean, you don't like to say it, and you're absolutely right not to say it. But then you watch Match of the Day and you look at the Liverpool-Everton game, and the fella should have taken 2 yellow cards for taking a bloke out on the halfway line. Of course, it was Liverpool, and he only got 1 yellow card. But but they have no problem doing it. And they're second in the table, or wherever it is that they are in the table. So we should have no problem doing that where we are in the table. Like you say, there was enough. I think it was Doughty who was the first one that they went past. One, just clear him out. You're only going to get a yellow card.
I think if you ask most people, they'd rather take a yellow card and a free kick, concede the free kick rather than concede a goal. I certainly would, unless that player's on a yellow card and then you can't sub him off. And we're not privy to be allowed to make those changes before the player's going to get sent off.
Oh wait, well we haven't had a perfectly good goal disallowed, have we? So we haven't got 2 months of decisions coming our way.
No,
particularly where that ball broke, and like the Doughty one was the moment where they smelt blood, wasn't it? That you're around about the edge of the centre circle at that point. The danger can still be cut out, but the second goal is pure Chris Wood. That's what he does all the time, and I mean even then surely they trained for that and just planned for that.
But you have to show him down the line for the cross. You have to.
But the first one, to allow him a run in or goal from 25 yards, it's soft really, because that's not what Chris Wood does, is it?
No, he did take it very well though.
Yeah, he did.
So let's not take it away from him. He scored 2 goals and one that was offside, miles offside, by the way. But he took his goals well.
He did take that goal well compared to he's just missed a couple of sitters in the first half and a couple of headers actually, ironically, which is Chris Wood, that he put over the crossbar and didn't really threaten Kaminsky. But 2-0 down, something's got to happen, hasn't it? I mean, we can all see that something's got to happen. It wasn't Chong's day.
No.
It wasn't Brown's day really. He wasn't getting much joy out of Murillo. And it wasn't really Pelly's day either, although obviously Pelly was, Pelly did nothing wrong, but when you're 2-0 down, one defensive player's got to go, hasn't he? And an attacking player's got to come on. So on comes Andros Townsend for his first game in 5 million days, or whatever the number was. Ross Barkley comes on. Elijah Adebayo comes on. And instantly, it changed, didn't it? The experience that Townsend and Barkley brought. It was Barkley wiped out on the sideline, wasn't it? For a free kick that Townsend crosses. I'm sure he'll be honest enough to say that was not one of his best free kicks. Like you alluded to earlier, thankfully Serge Aurier face planted it for the second time in that game. Ball went over his head, falls to Chio. I'm not convinced got the greatest contact on it, but actually I think the fact that he didn't get the greatest contact on it has put it into the top corner, whereas if he'd hit it clean, what it is, goalkeeper's just there and saving it. But we asked for a little bit of an improved end product from Chio in the deep dive that we did last week with Helen. We can't argue with it now, can we? Because, 2 really good crosses in that game that Brown could have had 2 goals from, and he's got his first Premier League goal and deserved his first Premier League goal as well.
Yeah, he did. And it is all about getting in the right place and not only doing that, but then executing the finish. And like you say, he didn't get the best of touches on it, but anything will do as long as it's away from the goalie and on target. You can stand a very good chance of getting a goal there.
On target's the key, isn't it? They just weren't doing that. That's what they weren't doing.
Yeah.
So however you get it on target, maybe that's a good thing that they've fluffed it into the top corner, because sometimes, in previous games, certainly the Tottenham one, there was some great connections, but nowhere near the bloody goal. So, it's one of those ones, isn't it? If you're a striker struggling for goals, if it goes in off your arse, that's a good start. But however it happens, it's good.
Well, it's the same with Adebayo's goal as well. You're probably going to come on to that now, aren't you?
Well, I mean, it was kind of a big part of the game, so probably makes sense for me to come on to that, to be fair. So 24 hours later, when VAR finally decided that Ogbene's not offside and the game restarts, and there's 6 minutes left of the game, and everyone knew there was going to be double that because of the time that it took for VAR to finally decide that Ogbene had scored. And we've been big fans of Elijah Adebayo on this podcast, haven't we? Ever since he signed, we had his back in the deep dive when I called out that racism and everything else. I don't think I've ever been more chuffed for a footballer to score a goal, not just because of the situation and everything else, but the fact that it was him that scored it in a long time. You know, he got pelters after, take the racism out of it, he got pelters for missing that chance against Tottenham. Everyone's going to miss a chance, particularly our strikers who are trying to build their way up to this level. But what he hasn't done, he hasn't shirked it. He faced up straight away with you, and he came on the pitch and he made a massive impact. And that goal is as good a goal as you're going to see in the Premier League for in terms of physicality, strength, technique. Absolutely brilliant. As I said earlier, he swatted Worrell off. Get away from me. You're not getting this ball. Brought it down on his chest and then bang, straight in the corner. And it was just brilliant. It was just a brilliant moment. I'm so delighted. I wouldn't have cared who scored it, but I'm just so delighted it was Eli that scored it.
Absolutely, it was pure Eli. That's him all over. That's his best stuff. That chest to take that down is unbelievable touch in the tight space that he's under. Because it's a very long ball as well. He's had a long way to watch that from Lockyer to bring
fighting
that down.
The defender off at a time as well.
Shrugs him off, and the finish is unerring. And it's like, stick that up your pipe, you racists. That's what I'm saying.
It was a good twos up at the people that have been wrongly abusing him. And like you say, the technique he showed, the timing, which he didn't have a lot of time to do to get the ball under control, under his feet, and then stop, try and steer it into the net without the goalkeeper getting something on it. It takes some doing, and he executed it perfectly. And I think credit's got to go to the managers there and the coaches, because he was pulled out of the starting lineup for a little while, wasn't he? Because it wasn't quite happening for him. And I know a little bit about this I played up front myself and I was crap, so I know about being pulled out of teams and then put back in. And you score a goal and it makes all the world of difference. But if you're not scoring, don't do what Peter Taylor did to Adi Akinbaye 20 years ago at Leicester and just keep him in, where he just keeps hitting can't hit barn doors for toffee. Take him out for a couple of games, reintroduce him for 10, 15 minutes or 20 minutes here and there, and work with him and just keep giving him the belief that, yes, okay, I'm pulling you out because we can both see it's not working at the moment. Come out of the side for a couple of
Luton
games.
can do that now. They've got the options, haven't they?
We have got the options. I mean, we're not blessed with 4 Erling Haalands, but we've got options, good, honest, hard-working footballers, and they're not going to be the most. You're not going to get 20, 30 goals out of every single one of them. That's because that's completely unrealistic and completely ridiculous. But you've got people like Woodrow who will come in and work hard. You've got Brown who will work hard. You've got Morris who always works his socks off. I've never seen a more hard-working centre-half at Luton for years, since Steve Howard, really, that works his socks off. And Adebayo, who's feels like he has a point to prove. I mean, yes, in terms of Premier League level, yeah, he has. But to Luton fans, no, he ain't got nothing to prove.
No, he hasn't. He absolutely
not
hasn't.
really.
No. He definitely hasn't. As I say, we're massive fans of Eli on this podcast.
Well, what it does now as well, because he's got a point to prove, and he's been on the subs bench, but he's come off. He's scored twice now, impact player, and he's now second top goal scorer, isn't he? Just doing that.
Yeah.
Whereas we're talking about in the previous podcast, Brown, that you don't drop him because his work rate is fantastic.
Yeah.
And there's a decision there to be made now, because I'm not saying anything about Brown because he has been performing well, getting in the right places, but he's not getting them. He's not putting them in at the minute. And so Adebayo is. And, after the week he's had, I mean, that's the main thing, is it's the story of it, isn't it, after that week, that shouldn't happen to in this modern day and age, but unfortunately the world's full of fucking idiots. So it does. But that's the way you answer your critics, and to finish in that way and get his rewards as well, because he got the goal against Burnley, and then what's his face goes and sticks a worldie in the top corner and ruins it in 64 seconds. I mean, it nearly happened again, obviously.
Well, I was going to say,
it was far from a worldie, but yeah.
If there is a criticism of Eli, just do it a little bit closer to full time so that they can't go up the other end and bloody score again, because I've never ever in my life have I been so glad to see a linesman's flag. I saw it early enough. I was waiting for all of the precious ones around us to celebrate like they just won the European Cup again. Sorry lads, have a look at the lino. Got the old flag up. And they didn't even VAR check it. That's how offside he was.
Do you know what was great about that as well, when you look at the replay? And it hasn't been talked about, because they didn't talk about much on Match of the Day, to be fair, but
Well, to be fair, I mean, it was about 1 a.m. at the time that they finally got around to.
Well,
bothering
yeah,
with
yeah.
the
It
league.
did seem to take, like, I've no problem with Luton being on last, but it did seem to take forever to get on.
Yeah.
Oh, I do. When Wolves and Bournemouth are ahead of us, come on now, come on, match of the day. Have a look at the league table.
But what was great about that is there was a very astute little half step by Lockyer, because he saw the line, he saw Wood, and he did a half step backwards to make him offside. I think that was very intentional. If you talk, at the same time, we've got to say you've got to have a bit more nous about the first goal. You've got to give credit for that, because that is very clever.
It just shows that we've got the intelligence to, okay, yeah, all right, we're making mistakes, but we've got the intelligence to sort of work out where we've gone wrong and go, okay, what do I need to do for the rest of it? And a very good centre half will do that. And there's Tom Lockyer, and I'm not having that he's not up to the Premier League standard, because he is.
And he appealed, didn't he? So he knew he'd made that step.
That's what Arsenal did in the 80s. That was pure George Graham Arsenal.
It was 1-0.
Yeah. There was no criticising anyone, because there could have been, because we lost the ball on the edge of our box. He knew it was offside, and it was crack on. And brilliant piece of defending. Well done to the lino as well for flagging it, because it was fairly tight. He was his side of Lockyer, so probably looked a bit more offside maybe than he actually was, but he was offside. That's the main thing. Don't matter if you're offside by your fingernail or a mile, still offside in this VAR day and age, isn't it? And good 2-2 draw. Absolute scenes in the away end, both when the second goal went in and when the players came over to celebrate, and they were right to come over to celebrate, because there are many a team, even in this division, there are many a team at 2-0, they were like, oh, well, it's not our day. We'll prepare ourselves for next Sunday. But not this lot. They keep going, they keep fighting, they keep battling. I think Elijah said it in his post-match interview. Why would we give up when the fans are singing and cheering and they're not giving up? We won't give up. And that's exactly what's going to keep us up this season. No one's going to give up. And it was brilliant. Let's come on to some individuals. One in particular. I've been waiting so long for this podcast to be able to pick up Ross Barkley, because this man is special as a footballer, right? And when he came on the pitch, and it's no disrespect to anyone that he replaced or anything like that, he came on the pitch, his chest was out. I belong at this level, and I'm going to keep this bloody club at this level. And he was excellent. He carried the ball. He took the ball in dangerous situations. He picked passes that were progressive and that opened up the opposition, rather than taking the safer and the easier pass back to the defender or something like that. And in 20 minutes, he showed exactly why he's going to be an asset to this football club, whether he claps or whatever he does with his hands at the end of the game or before the game or anything else. On that football pitch, he is going to be superb for this football club.
There's no question that he gets it and he wants it as well either, because that's where it came from, wasn't it? Because that first performance, first outing he had, and he went down the tunnel and people criticising him for not clapping, but he's since clapped. He was the only one clapping for a long while against Spurs until all the rest of them caught up. And then after that goal yesterday, you've seen the clip on social media, and he's running up to the Luton crowd and egging them on and stuff like that. He totally gets it. There's no Billy Big Bollock stuff about it whatsoever. And that's what we wanted to see from him, really, if he can start replicating that. And now you've probably got to say he's in the equation for starting, whereas before I was saying, no, he's got to work his way into it. But if you're talking about Adebayo coming and making an impact, then so was he.
Yeah, he made a Premier League impact, didn't he? He just looked like he belongs at that level. And not all of our midfielders, and again, it's no disrespect to them, they're new to the level, apart from Marv. Not all of our midfielders do, but he just came on, and in that 20 minutes, he changed the game completely. We were on the front foot. Balls were going into the box. There was that delightful one, wasn't there, just as we were going into injury time, where there was Barkley, Woodrow, Elijah, Townsend playing short one-touch passes. It was beautiful football to watch, and he instigated most of everything that was good at that last 20 minutes.
Well, he did, and it was exactly why he was brought onto the field anyway. Go on there, go and affect the game, try and get a result. Simple as. And I remember saying in the summer, I remember some of the pundits saying that if Luton fans think that Ross Barkley's going to be the difference between you staying up, you need to have a long hard look at yourself. Well, all right, but he was absolutely a difference yesterday, and he, like you say, he came on, chest up, I belong, and I'm going to prove it. And I was having this conversation with a friend earlier. 5 years ago, I probably wouldn't have signed someone like Ross Barkley, not for his lack of football ability, because we all know he's got it, but more so his attitude, I'm Billy Big Bollocks sort of thing. But I think you saw a very mature, settled Ross Barkley there, and like James said, he absolutely gets it. This football club would not sign a player like Ross Barkley or Andros Townsend or any. Let's face it, are big names. They played for England. They're not just any old Tom, Dick or Harry. They're good, established international footballers who've played their whole lives at the top level. We wouldn't sign a player like them if they walked in and, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I want this, I want that. But no, fuck off you go. And whether they're at very similar points in their careers. Where Townsend needs to get his fitness up, needs to play, might be trying to earn a bigger move. Who knows? Barkley's probably doing the same because his move to France didn't work out. His move to Chelsea certainly didn't work out. And as long as both parties agree that what's happening, as long as these players are coming to play for the club, it works for both parties. It'll work. The second it stops working for Luton, they'll be out. But going back to yesterday, I'm waffling, I know. But going back to Barkley, yeah, he was absolutely brilliant yesterday. I felt he was starting to see what we all thought we'd see at the start. I remember we all spoke about him beforehand. It come out completely out of the blue. What Luton doing, signing someone like him, and I always said if we can get him fit, and I think we're close to that now, you'll start seeing the Ross Barkley of old, but with a mature head, and that's an even better player than the one that was playing for Everton a few years ago.
Yeah, Ross Barkley in these games coming up could be the difference between getting something that no one expects and not doing so. If you are one of these people who's still not completely convinced that Ross Barkley gets us, and I understand that there's a few that would still think it. The club put a bit of his post-match interview out on social media. Track that down, because once you've watched that, you'll know he gets it. And fair play to him. And I can't wait. The thought of a Marv, Lokonga, Barkley midfield three is getting me so excited for what's to come this season. It's untrue. Just hope we can get all three of them in that team from the start at some point. And again, that's absolutely no disrespect to anyone that's here and isn't included in that trio. It's just that trio has the potential to be pretty special. Another player who has the potential to be pretty special, and Dan alluded to it earlier, came on the pitch and looked like he'd been playing for the last 18 months, not playing for the last 18 months, was Andros Townsend. And I must admit, it surprised me a little bit that he came on the right-hand side. I thought he would come on the left-hand side. I'm glad he did come on the right-hand side, because it was crying out for Gio to go at Serge Aurier, who, apart from face-planting himself twice, did absolutely bog all in that game. But Townsend doesn't give the ball away. He's happy to hold on to the ball whilst Issa Kabore's making his run around the outside. He's happy to play the ball into the striker and follow it in and go and get the ball again to play another pass. Again, this is a guy who, if you wasn't sure he'd played for England, you damn well knew about it yesterday, because just the simple but effective but good nature of the stuff that he did was really good. As I've alluded to, he's got his first assist in a Luton shirt. He'll get better assists, i.e. not quite as scuffed as that cross.
I'm not sure that really counts as an assist, but it's been given.
But just that 20 minutes, you've got to think just logically that that's going to be the worst 20 minutes he plays for Luton, because it's his first 20 minutes in however long. That's exciting.
It is. And I mean, sometimes the difference with these top players is just they do the very basics very, very well and quickly. And you saw that there. I mean, when you watch maybe even Legends games, they've still got it technique-wise. They just can't cope physically anymore and that sort of stuff. And he's not that at that stage. I'm not saying that, but no. I mentioned it because I saw a clip of Ian Rush absolutely rattling a top corner shot on one of these sort of Legends five-a-sides things recently. And you think, once you've got it, you don't really lose it. And there's no question about Andros Townsend whatsoever. It's just that he just had a bit of rotten luck with injuries of late. So, 587 days, I think he was saying, it was the last time since he's played a Premier League game. And, I question whether he would get involved in this game. I didn't think he would, but by all accounts, having spoken to Rob Edwards in the press conference before the game, he kept himself very fit anyway, and obviously he was training in the season, in the summer, with Burnley, and it was going to happen apparently until they withdrew it. And hopefully Burnley are looking on and going, well, we've made an absolute howler there, because if he can do that and obviously increase and improve as he plays, then it's going to be great. You've got no reason to question that he wouldn't, because everybody else in the Luton shirt has developed and progressed in these 9 games. Surely he will as well.
Yeah, and he's progressing from a higher standpoint than the rest because he's played at this level so often. I mean, you're guaranteed a good ball in the box.
Yep.
You're guaranteed a good technique. He's not going to give the ball away very often unless he's trying something extravagant, which is necessary. If you're ahead in the game, he can hold the ball. Mm-hmm. If you're behind in the game, he can carry the ball into the danger area. Whether this works out as a long-term starting option or merely what we saw on Saturday, 20 minutes off the bench in whichever circumstance, welcome to Luton Town, because he's going to be a massive, massive player.
Yeah, and it's exactly what he was brought in. On the short-term deal, I'm pretty sure that it obviously works for both sides, like I said earlier about the Barkley deal as well. And it'll be the same situation with Townsend. Obviously, not playing for 18 months means signing you is still a massive risk. Based on 20 minutes yesterday, it's a risk well taken. But it's all about doing that week in, week out between now and January, because if he gets another bad injury, that's lights out, mate. Which I wouldn't like to see, but that's the bigger picture of the whole deal. Obviously, if he gets through that unscathed, and I hope he does, we all hope he does, then it's a brilliant deal for us, and it's a brilliant deal for him as well, because he's still getting to play Premier League football. He's playing in a team that is continuing to progress and wants to keep progressing, and he looks after himself as well, which is what you need, and he passes on his experience to the younger players and the players that are still trying to build themselves up and maintain a Premier League level. It's a great deal for everyone.
Yep, the deal that he signed is very much showing that he's desperate to play football, and absolutely fair play to him.
Yeah,
as the first 20 minutes go, really, really good. Only going to build on that, and I'm excited to see what he can deliver as well. That's it for our review of Notts Forest 2, Luton 2.
Nottingham.
Notts Forest.
Nottingham.
Notts Forest 2, Luton 2.
Bloody hell, the amount of comments we got about that, unbelievable. Precious.
Someone shouted
for Championship fodder Luton, by the way, who are still not in the bottom 3.
But that's Championship fodder Luton, who are now 5 unbeaten against the mighty Notts Forest.
again.
Thank God we've only got to play them one more time this season.
The amount sorry, I have to say, it's the amount of delusion that we saw from their fans saying that Luton were Championship fodder when they've spent 14 straight seasons in the Championship out and 23 outside the top flight, 23 seasons in total, whereas Luton just spent 4 and got out of it in exactly the same fashion.
Yeah, and
then before the game, we're on exactly the same points as Forest were at the same stage last season, but better off because not in the relegation zone. I mean,
and we brought 425,913 players less than them in doing so.
They didn't like that either, but
we only spent 20 million on an entire squad, where they spent 20 million on a left shoe of someone. So it's fine margins. They've got different ways of doing things, and good luck to them. But I was thinking about this on the way to the game. I would much rather have only spent 20 million on 13 players than 130 million on 250,000 players and just about stay in the league. It's not good business for me, but...
Well, it's not good business, is it? You buy so many players and Joe Worrell's still your first man off the bench. I mean, come on now. Anyway,
if you're watching Joe Worrell, you're a quality player.
Thanks, Joe.
If you're watching Joe Worrell, can you talk your way into starting the reverse fixture? Because we might have plenty more joy in that, and that might be a big game when it comes along. But that's it for the away version of Notts Forest against Luton. Thanks to James. Thanks to Dan for joining me. Thanks to you for watching and listening. Thanks, of course, to the Hightown Club for hosting us, as always. Thanks to Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for our intro music, and to Ed Smith Creative for all of the designs of our podcast that you can see on the set and everything. If you are not a Trust member, please do consider joining the trust. The stronger the voice that we can have, the greater reach and the greater power that we can have. And that's really, really important, as David Wilkinson alluded to in that chair, that we've not got there right now because there's no need for it. But he did sort of suggest that it was important. So yeah, if you would consider joining the trust, we do have our AGM coming up as well. So it's a good time to join. All the details are on our website, www.lutontownsporterstrust.com. Until next time, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Come on, you Hatters.
Can you believe it? We are Premier League! Yes!
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got these massive souls.
We're Luton people.